Good day, viewers. You're welcome to today's section of Lawyers Alert discussion. My name is Ozobulu Solumtochukwu Precious. I'll be discussing with you on the topic Human Trafficking and Dignity of Man. Human trafficking is a trend in our country today. It's a worldwide nemesis. It happens in our society. Some persons might say human trafficking is just a facade, but it's something that happens in the streets, in our state, in our country. It might even be affecting your neighbor, but you will not know. But now let's go on to know the real definition of human trafficking. Human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of the threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, or deception. It is usually channeled towards the most vulnerable of the society for the purpose of exploitation. From this definition, we can bring out three elements in this definition, and they are: 1. Action. For there to be human trafficking, there must be an action. Actions like recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt. There must be an action to establish human trafficking. Then, the means by which this action is being carried out equally matters a lot. This means can be threat, coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, and so on and so forth. But the actions and means cannot be complete without the reason behind this action and means, which is the purpose of carrying out the action, and that is exploitation. There must be this purpose of exploitation for there to be established human rights trafficking. Human rights trafficking violates and impairs fundamental human rights. It constitutes a fundamental violation of the human person. Come to think of it, there are so many laws that are being violated by the practice of human trafficking. But before then, let's take the statistics of this human trafficking. The latest global estimates, according to International Labour Organization, calculate that nearly 2.1 million people are victims of human trafficking. Roughly 4.5 million of those victims are trafficked for the purpose of sexual exploitation. Human trafficking continues to grow in Africa, especially in Nigeria, where poverty, corruption, and so on and so forth are the case. Then the reason why people are being trafficked, or the reason why these human traffickers traffic humans, take their victims to various destinations to achieve their purpose of exploitation. This is 1. Slavery. They take people, they take these victims, they transport these victims, they recruit them to turn them to slaves in the various countries or places where they will take them to. Another one is forced marriages. This brings us back to the Chibok girls kidnap. If we flash back to that incident in Nigeria, it's actually a clear case of human trafficking. We got the news that some of these girls were being forced to marry their kidnappers. They are being forced to marry those who have taken them from the place of learning. Another purpose is forced prostitution. This is the most trending, and this brings out tears from the eyes of many, because it eats to the fabrics of our nation, where our young ladies, women will be deceived. They will be deceived to follow people, and then they end up being slaves to prostitution. Another reason is drug smuggling. Yes, drug smuggling is a very big business going on in the world, and they need people to help them carry out these actions. So they will go down to the interior part of our country, to the rural part of our country, and they will pick people. They will pick children. They will pick women. They will pick men. Yes, men are being trafficked. You might be surprised to hear that. And they pick them and force them to do things which ordinarily these people would not want to do. Another one is organ harvesting. Oh, how they take their victims to the various destinations and take away their organs from them, selling to various people, foreign organizations, foreign hospitals, even Nigerian hospitals, to get money. This is a big blow in our society. This is man-inhuman treatment against their fellow man. As our topic says, human trafficking and the dignity of man. Now we've understood what human trafficking really means, and ways and purposes of carrying out this act and nemesis. Now let's come to the dignity of man. By the practice of this, the rights of people are being denied from them. In Nigeria, we are accorded so many rights, so many fundamental rights from the Chapter 4 of our Constitution. One of those rights is the right to life. The right to life, as stated by Section 33 of the Nigerian Constitution, is being deprived from this victim when you are being threatened to do something, and so many things that are detrimental to your health, that will even likely cause you death, like organ harvesting, like drug smuggling. All these things threatens people's right to life. Another right is the right to dignity of human person. Section 34 of our Constitution accords each and every person, whether citizen or non-citizen, it accords every person the right to the dignity of their persons. And it says that nobody should be forced into compulsory labor, and nobody should be forced into slavery. But alas, that is what human trafficking is all about. They take people and they force them to carry out work. They take ladies and they force them into prostitution. And even the prostitution is not like they work and they get the money and put in their pocket. No, they work to enrich their traffickers. Another right is the right to personal liberty. In the law of tort, there is something called false imprisonment. The personal liberty of these victims have been denied from them. They've lost all right to personal liberty, as they don't have a say as to what happens to them. They don't have a say as to what they do. They only follow the dictates of their traffickers. Another right is the right to private and family life. There's nothing like privacy. Their privacy is taken away from them because their traffickers, in fact, deals with everything that has to do with them. They don't have any right to privacy. Another is the right to freedom of expression. What has a slave to say to his master? They don't have a say. They cannot even express themselves. Another is the right to freedom of movement. How can a slave have a freedom of movement? How can someone who has been abducted have the right to freedom of movement? From the moment of adoption, that right to freedom of movement has been denied and been infringed upon. Most times they are taken into houses with big fence that their movements are well restricted. That brings me to a very recent case that Lawyers Alert is handling now, of some group of girls that were lured to Burkina Faso. And then they were kept in a house with big fences and they were forced into prostitution. You only get to leave that compound when the taxi comes around 6 to 7 to pick you for your daily duty. And when you come back early in the morning, you remit the money you've earned for that day to your big bosses, and then you're left with nothing. Another is the right to education. People who are going through punishment, people who are going through exploitation, they are denied the right to education because there's nobody to educate them. All these are traffickers, they will not even take them to school. The people they are sold to will use them as slaves. They will not educate them. So invariably, all their rights as human will be violated. All their rights as human is being violated if nothing is done about it. Yes, human trafficking started in our country from statistics in Edo State. Although it's still trending in Edo State, regardless of what NGOs, government agencies have been doing so far. But I tell you, it's not just in Edo State. It has moved into every other state. Right now, it is currently in Benue. It might be in the state where you are. Unless you know what to do, unless you stand up, unless we all say no to human trafficking, there will be a continuance of this practice. Now, what are some of those things that cause humans to traffic their fellow human? One is poverty. The trend of poverty in our country is so high. People die every day of hunger that they source for means to survive. And by so doing, they become victims, they become open, they become vulnerable to human traffickers. Even the human traffickers, in order to earn, in order to make a means, they resort to trafficking other human beings. Although that does not justify what they do, but there is need to look into curbing poverty. Another one is political crisis. Yes, human trafficking cannot be devoid of political hands. Our politicians have a hand in what is going on. Because if they don't, by now, there would have been a stop to human trafficking. But because in one way or the other, they benefit from this practice. So technically, they put a no eye to it. They act like it does not happen, while really it happens in our society. So there's need for all of us to put hands together and fight against this practice of human trafficking. In Nigeria, Barr, in way back, in order to curb human trafficking, NAPTIP was created. That's an agency against the trafficking in person. But so far so good. It's more like they don't exist because they don't carry out their duties. And then the punishment given to the human traffickers, it's more like a no punishment. It would even surprise you to know that they have the option of fine. Yes, they get to pay little stipends and then they are allowed to go, regardless of what they've made people pass through. Most victims of human trafficking, they are always withdrawn. They're always scared of the society because they don't even know who is who. They're even scared to tell their neighbor, this is what I go through, because their neighbor might be a part of this. Yes, another reason is that is a growing trend. It's a very profitable business, so to say, because so far so good. It has been ranked as the third illegally most profitable business in the world. And most times it's operated by cabals of persons that cut across every country, that cut across every state, that cut across every villages in our society. So nobody will be seen as a god. Who knows, your neighbor might be a trafficker, but we must put eyes on the ground to be able to identify these people and put a stop to human trafficking. Because human trafficking is a form of slavery. It is a crime against humanity, a great violation of human rights, an atrocious scourge, and it is all the more to be condemned when it takes place against ladies and children. Yes, most times human trafficking is regarded as a gender-based violence because it's mostly directed towards ladies and children. They traffic men nonetheless, but it's very difficult and most times it does not happen. Then we have to look at the means by which these human traffickers carry out their dirty games. 1. They come through seduction and romance. Yes, they seduce the ladies. They seduce the ladies, promising them life, good life. If they stay together, then they take them out of the country. And then that is when the lady will see the actual thing, the lion behind the door. Another is false job advertisement. Yes, even some people will say, yes, false job advertisement comes personally. Yes, it comes personally. But most times, they even publish these false jobs on national newspapers. And innocent victims will put a call across to get jobs, and then they will end up being victims of human trafficking. Another is lies about educational or travel opportunities. It is a trend in our country that almost every youth wants to travel out of the country to study because of the academic standard in our society, in our country. And then these traffickers have seen it as a means to an end, as a way, as a channel to lure people into trafficking. So they come to you, promising you, yes, there's this scholarship somewhere. Yes, there's this educational opportunity somewhere. And I can help you fast track the process so that you travel and then get to study and work at the same time. Who won't be deceived by that? Everybody wants a better life. But this is another means by which these traffickers get their victims. Then abduction. They abduct their victims too. That's forceful moving somebody from where the person is to another place without the person's consent. It's not like the person is even allowed to give consent at all. Like the Chibok girls incident and the Dachi girls incident. This is a clear case of adoption, and it's a clear case of human trafficking. And then we sit back, government sits back, everybody sits back because you feel it's not affecting your child, because you feel it's not affecting your relative. You see it that it does not happen. My dear, human trafficking, it's all over the place, and I know you know it too. So we must arise and say no to human trafficking. We must stand and say no to human trafficking. Then some of the recommendations. One of the recommendations I have is this: emphasis needs to be placed on integrity, transparency, and accountability of all public and private institutions. Because these human traffickers, especially when it's across the border trafficking, they meet public officials on the way, and these people, they do nothing, because maybe they'll be given small stipend to shut up, and then they'll close their mouth and see their fellow human being being dragged to the waste. So there's need to emphasize on integrity. There's need to sensitize public and private institutions. There's need to sensitize public and private workers on the need to be their fellow man's watch, on the need to stand up for their fellow man and say no to human trafficking. Another recommendation is a stricter law. Yes, human trafficking brings a threat to human life, and the punishment to this should be life imprisonment. Since there is an advocate against death sentence, then let it be life imprisonment. Because if the victim of human trafficking should tell you what they passed through, you will know actually that this person has gone through hell and the person is bad. And then for the public officers, or for those who aid the act of human trafficking, a stricter punishment should be given to them also. For public officers who aid, after they've served their term of imprisonment, they should be removed from public service, because it is another way to curb corruption in our society. And the option of fine should be totally removed from the laws. Another is the rehabilitation of victims. I feel that other than NAPTIP, another organization or another body should be created to take care of victims of human trafficking. To take care of victims of human trafficking, so that this victim, they will go through the process of rehabilitation, so they can be able to mingle with the society after they've passed through this nemesis. Another recommendation is the creation of more work opportunities, both skilled and unskilled. This calls for government intervention. There's need to provide job opportunities for our youth, as this will curb their involvement in human trafficking. This will curb their interactions with the human traffickers. This will equally curb their being victims of human trafficking. Another is address poverty by evenly distributing resources from the highest level to the grassroots. This is very basic, because this is the very generational and the standpoint by which human trafficking started, and by which people started falling victims of human trafficking. So resources generated from our country should cut down to the grassroots. Let it reach the rural people. Let them not just be the people bringing out these resources and they will not reap from it. Thank you very much as you've joined us today. Your participation, your discussion, your own view is equally welcome. And you can ask questions as I stand to answer your questions. Thank you very much for participating with us.
Woohoo! 30 minutes.
30. Jesus, this is the longest you've ever done. It's finished. It's gone.